Hello and welcome to Katrina's Speaks. This is the space for real talk, held with care, honesty, and respect. In this podcast today, we don't want to rush any stories and we do not want to tidy them up. We do not want to shy away from the uncomfortable truths that need to be heard in a sector that is quite often invisible. So we talk about care, we talk about people, we talk about systems, but what we are not talking about enough is how that affects other people's lives. So today I'm honoured to be joined by a lady that has sacrificed 10 years of her life to become an unpaid carer, not a role that she chose, but a role that was forced upon her. And today she's going to come in and tell us the human impact that actually had. I don't want to give away too much. We've got lived in spirit experience, we've got real talk, and I'm really excited to be sharing this with you today. So I'm just going to let Jane into the studio. Hi, Jane, and thank you so much for joining me today. Would you like to introduce yourself? And I know you're a huge advocate in the sector as a whole, and I know you've got loads to say, and I'm so excited to give you that platform today. But would you just like to introduce yourself and just tell us why? Tell us why you are so passionate about the care sector.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Yes, I'm Jane McHugh. I'm 71, a former teacher in a previous life. But more recently, I've been caring for a husband who has Alzheimer's and MS dementia, and life has changed somewhat. I'm passionate about speaking out about caregivers, because when somebody's diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it's not just one diagnosis, it's them and their carer, and both need to be looked after. But sadly, that's not always true.
Right. Thanks very much, Jane, for sharing that. And I think it'd be really good for us to sort of understand, what was your life like before you become an unpaid carer? I know you said that you were a teacher, and I would like to know a little bit more about your journey. Sort of how did you end up becoming an unpaid carer? Who was you a carer for? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Okay, so Frank and I, it's a second marriage for both of us. I met him when I was 47. He was working in Sweden, so lots of travel, lots of excitement. I met him on AOL, actually, computer dating, all those years ago.
What was that one?
AOL.
I've never even heard of that.
They're my internet email provider at the moment. AOL.
Wow.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah, he was funny. He was charming. He was great, and he lived abroad, so I got to go and visit in various different countries, and we had a good time when we first met. So that was back in 2001, I think it is. He was a design engineer in the motor industry. So he worked for all sorts of fabulous companies, Saab, Bentley even.
Lots of travelling around by the sounds of
yes.
it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
the high life, Jane, was it?
I thought I'd arrived.
Oh, darling, well done.
So we had a nice life.
Fabulous.
We had a great romantic life. We had fun. We had friends. So that was in 2001, and then when did we got married in 2009, and our problem had always been, where do we live? Because I was in Bromley, where my family and friends were, and he was all over the world. But his children were in Worthing at the time, and we never could decide where we wanted to live, because I didn't want to leave where I was. Anyway, we got together, we got married, and he moved in with me. And I had a lovely 3-story townhouse, and he moved in, but he hated living in Bromley, and he hated the house because you could hear the people next door. Modern build. And he soundproofed one room, and then eventually pestered me, and we moved. And it was this sensitivity to noise, and I think that was a first sign of Alzheimer's coming on him. So we moved.
Wow. So how early in was that, Jane? How long had you been married by that point?
So we'd been married for 4 years. But in the meantime, I should go back. In 2012, he was diagnosed with MS, which affected his movement, his balance. But he was coping with it. He was exercising. He was, we managed it. We went on a vegan diet, which is apparently recommended for MS. That was tough, but we did it for a while anyway.
You did it together?
Yes, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, it seems like, what you're telling me, you used to had you would just go here, there and everywhere. You didn't really like to settle in one place. You're quite adventurous, and playful, and it seems like you like to have like a lot of fun, and, both of you are second marriage?
Yes. He had 2 boys, I had 2 girls. They got on famously with each other.
Wow.
Yes. And then when he moved in with me, my girls enjoyed his company, and he's got a great sense of humour, has Frank. And he was quite charming in those days.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about that, if you look back to when you guys first met, what's the hardest part to remember now?
But the hardest bit, because it makes me so sad, is just his loss of himself. He lost his ability to get on with people, and he made people dislike him quite easily because of the personality changes that came over him, and his inability to get on with other people, and his life became very small. So from that chap who had lots of friends, who mixed easily with people, who enjoyed a pint and a game of cards, or enjoyed socialising, that all shut down gradually, very gradually.
Did that shut down because he wasn't able to go out, or did that shut down because friends and people that he used to sort of socialise with started stepping away?
I think people started stepping away. My girls particularly. Okay, so they enjoyed us as a couple. They enjoyed, coming over for a cards evening, going out for a curry, whatever we did. They enjoyed him and his sense of humour, and then suddenly, well, I suppose it was gradually, but my girls started to dislike him, the way he was speaking to me, the way he was so shrunken in his ability to deal with other people. He just became an old grump.
So, Jane, you said that he went to the doctors and got diagnosed with the MS first. So how long after the MS did the diagnosis come for the Alzheimer's? Was it quite quickly?
Oh no, that was a long time. So 2012 he got MS diagnosed, and he wasn't diagnosed with dementia, Alzheimer's, until 2024. So it's 10 years.
Wow. And when the doctor said to you that your husband's got MS, what was the first thought that went into your head? Did you think this is going to change my life? Or did you think, that's fine, we'll find a way, this isn't going to impact us?
Yeah.
Where did your mind go?
My mind went straight for the positive. That's the kind of woman I am. I have a background in alternative health and homeopathy and all sorts of things. And so, we'll find a way to deal with this. It's not going to beat us. It's not going to sink us. We will find a way to deal with it. And hence the vegan diet. Yeah, well, we carried on as normal for quite a few years. And then in sort of 2016, 2017, we were living in Bromley still. And he was working in Shoreham. So he was driving up and down every day, still car engineering, or engine bay packaging, they called it, designing bits for under the bonnet. But he kept taking longer and longer to get home, and he was getting lost in the lanes. He had this big thing about not wanting to go on the M25 and getting stuck in traffic jams, and it had taken hours to come home. No.
I mean, rather you than me. I think I tried it once for one meal and then I give it up, you know. So it takes an absolute skill to commit to a vegan
we
diet.
did it for a couple of years.
Absolutely. And I think so. The MS diagnosis to the Alzheimer's diagnosis, you're talking a 10-year sort of period there. Just talk us through, Jane, what happened in that 10-year period? So you've got your husband who you're jet setting off with all the time, you're having fun, you're being adventurous, you're enjoying, embracing life together. This diagnosis comes, and then what is the sort of progression that, when did you have to sort of stop working? Because I'm guessing you had to stop working.
So that was one of the first signs that things weren't right.
And it was his normal routes, was it, Jane? So these were all regular routes that he started slowly forgetting.
Yeah, so he'd
to get home.
Go through the back lanes throughout Kent on the way home. And, you know, he'd say he'd been through Penshurst or he'd been through this place, that place. And I was thinking, why? So that could have given me a sign, but of course it didn't. I'm oblivious to everything, except I just thought, you know, you've had enough of working. You've worked all your life. You've worked hard, been a good provider for your family. Maybe it's time to give up. So he gave up. And at that similar sort of time, my brother was the melanoma that he'd had previously came back. And yeah, so I gave up work to look after him in his final stages of the illness, which was hard. And
was that, so you give up work to become a carer for your brother, did you say?
Yeah, not his primary carer, because he had a husband.
Yeah.
But I was very involved in his care, and I needed that time to be with him. Yeah. So that was only, I gave up work in the summer. His term ended, and I'd retired then. And then he died in September. So it was only a few months with him. But I'm grateful I had that time.
So that was quite quick, unexpected.
Yeah. Yeah, so Frank gave up work.
Oh, Jane.
And we moved house. We moved to a bungalow, and he was very involved in the renovations on this bungalow. Built a new bedroom, built a new bathroom. Not purely on his own, with help, but you know, he was totally involved in it. But he was just not himself. You know, he was getting grumpy and difficult, and had these fantastical plans for what they wanted to do in the house. And the builder that we had would say, "You're crazy. No, we can't do that," or, you know, "That's cutting corners," or no. So some erratic ideas.
Which was out of character for him?
Not necessarily. He's an ideas man, you know. He's an ideas. He's an engineer.
Like my husband, then constant crazy wacky ideas.
Yeah.
So I think, so by this time then, Jane, I think you're both retired, and you thought you were going to have some time together. You've just had, you know, you're still grieving. You're going to have some time together, and I guess, is that when things started to show a little bit more the patterns of sort of progression towards the Alzheimer's?
Yeah. So I only see it looking back. It's kind of retrospective grief in the years that were taken away. But, you know, stupid things like he couldn't sign his name. Where did that come from? He you know, several times when I'm parking outside a shop, he'd go into the shop, come out, get into another car. It's like he wasn't concentrating on his life. We joined a bowls club. He couldn't get on with people. He couldn't get on with the bowling, which, you know, MS must have added to that. But but there are ways
I mean,
around it.
did you ever, when he got his diagnosis, Jane, MS first, did you get any help? Did anyone explain to you sort of what the progression of that might look like, what access to support you've got? Did you get any of that help?
No, we had a wonderful MS nurse at Bromley Hospital. She was fabulous, but she was dealing with symptoms. And the idea for the vegan diet came from a wonderful MS charity called Overcoming MS. And they advocate a vegan lifestyle, no meat, no dairy products. So anything we found out, I had to find out online or through talking to people who'd been through this route. But I never realised that there was a cognitive dysfunction element to MS, and to know that, I think being in advance to know things like that really helps people, doesn't it? Not that you're going to look out for these things, but then when they do happen and you notice something and you know what it is or know how to react. But the health service was also going through tough times in those years, and so the neurologist we saw was very infrequent, and then there was just no advice as to how to live it or how to deal with it best. Bit like the Alzheimer's as well. If you just get diagnosed and then off you pop, find out what you can on Facebook.
I think, Jane, at what point did you realise that you wasn't a wife anymore and you had actually now become a full-time unpaid carer? Today's episode was proudly sponsored by Astra. They are incredible at what they do, and I am very grateful. So if you are a care provider that is purchasing a new service that has existing services, multiple locations, they can support you with full IT setups and integrations. They are also experts in managing all cyber security, full scope setup. They are experts in secure Wi-Fi, and as we all know, in the care sector, in children's services, it's absolutely vital that our systems are protected. We can track what staff are looking at, we can track what patients and clients are doing, and that nobody is at risk. And that is one security we all need in this sector. If you need any IT support whatsoever, go to astra.co.uk to learn more, and you will not be disappointed.
There was a time we went on holiday, and we went to Spain with some friends, big group of us, fabulous holiday, and Frank couldn't find the dining room, couldn't find the way back to his bedroom, and I realised I just couldn't leave him on his own. So I had to be with him. I had to say no to all the trips out and everything. And we stayed in the hotel because I couldn't risk taking him somewhere where I might lose him. And he had no idea where he was. So things like that happened more and more. And so I asked the MS nurse, we'd moved to Worthing by then, and I asked the MS nurse to do a cognitive test with him, which they did. And he scored really, really low on something, recall. So really, really low. And I knew that there was a problem there. And I thought, oh, okay, I realised it was the MS that was causing this problem. But he wouldn't accept it. He wouldn't go back to the doctor. He wouldn't discuss the findings of the test that they'd given him. It was the nurse's fault. She'd asked the wrong questions, everything. He would not accept it. So so life became smaller and smaller. But
and that's what I'm hearing, Jane. Like, it seems not only have you now taken on that caring role, but you're also sacrificing so much of yourself, everything. You're losing parts of your life. Did you feel that? Did you feel that you were, that you were out of touch now, and that actually you didn't have time to do things? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, that's the trouble with caring as a family carer. You just kind of fall into it. You just take up the slack, and And then eventually you're this full-time carer. So while it was happening, I was irritated. I was mad with him. I just thought he was being a grumpy old bugger, to be honest. And he took up a lot of time, but I fought really hard to keep my own interests and my own friends and my own life. So I could leave him at that stage. I could leave him at home. He stayed at home a lot. He wouldn't come out. He didn't want to be bothered with other people. So we moved to Worthing in 2021, I think it is. And I tried to make friends because I had nobody down here. And then so I joined the bowls club. And in 2023, I'm proud to say, I won the ladies bowls championship. Even that, he never came to support me through it all. He wouldn't make the effort just to come round there.
And that wasn't, from what you're telling me, that is unusual. I mean, did people ask you, Jane? Did people say, how are you coping? Because I'm guessing people around you, and even professionals that would have been hopefully keeping in touch with you, did anyone check, are you okay? Do you need some help? Do you need some support? Did anyone help explain what care, benefits, any of this sort of stuff that you're entitled to?
Not at that stage, because he hadn't been diagnosed with Alzheimer's by then, although I knew that the MS had really taken a toll on his magnificent brain. So then he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in May 2024. He fell, broke his pelvis, ended up in hospital, and then because he had delusions and was dreadfully aggressive, he went into a care home, and that's when he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and MS dementia. Well, that was like a ton of bricks falling on us because Alzheimer's hadn't even entered my mind. I knew that there was some cognitive problems with his MS, but not Alzheimer's. That was a real bolt out of the blue. But with that,
and I guess it took you to get to crisis, to get to that diagnosis,
yes.
which is really, really sad, Jane. And I mean, what impact did that have on your marriage? The fact that you've got this progressive condition, you're not getting the correct support that you need, nor advice, no one's sort of checking in, you've got no support, you've sacrificed your whole life, the last 10 years to become a carer with no support. What toll did that take on your marriage?
Well, it becomes so it's not a marriage anymore. You're not really a wife anymore. You're a cleaner and medicine dispenser. Just his emotional needs were so huge. Trying to nurse this man through when he was feeling sad or anxious, and I know a lot of people have mental health issues, and it's hard for their partners to deal with. But alongside that was just this strange behaviour which had made him into somebody I didn't even like. I didn't want to be with. I was out as much and as often as I could be because I just didn't want to be there.
Yeah, and I mean, that's such a brave thing to come open and say, Jane, because we are human. And when we're dealing with these sort of challenges, especially when it's somebody that's no longer the person you fell in love with, that's hard because you grieve. You grieve for the person that you've lost, but they're still here. And it's not something that I've had to personally experience, but I can understand how that loss, but also commitment to losing your husband's personality, your security blanket, to then losing a part of you, your life, your daily operations, to then become the woman that when you got told your husband had MS, you never visioned your whole life being ran the way it is, and ended up falling out of love with your husband. That it's such a brave thing for you to come on and say, but it's also the reality of hundreds of thousands of people out there, and what support should have been available, and what could services have done to make sure that, one, it didn't take you to get to crisis for you to get the correct diagnosis? If this had been, picked up sooner, would things have gone a different way? I mean, what was it like, Jane, for you? He's hit crisis, gone into a care home. What was that like when he was in the care home for you?
Oh my God, it was horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Just the shock and the trauma of it all, and the way he was behaving when he was in there. 'Cause, he hit a nurse. He was so aggressive. He pushed another carer up against the door. And then this wasn't Frank. When they rang from the hospital and said he'd hurt this nurse, I couldn't believe that this was my husband. But as soon as he'd gone into hospital, he was delusional, thought he was at work all the time. And that's the sad thing about him, because he's a man who's worked all his life. That was all he had. And so he just became somebody I didn't recognize. And then it's like you've had the floor pulled out from underneath you, because you have to then manage finances, everything. You have to manage. You're the one in charge, because he hasn't got capacity. And I thank God I had my lasting power of attorney registered in April, and then he fell in May. I just think somebody was looking after me, because so many people don't have that in place, do they? But that's enabled.
No, and it's so important, Jane, isn't it? And and you obviously did your homework, so you did have some support, but it was self-support, and it just makes me think about, you've got all this going on, your husband's hit crisis, you feel a certain way because you haven't been supported either, and then you're going to feel guilty. Did you feel guilty for feeling the way you did, even though it's not your fault?
Hugely.
You've had all this lifestyle change brought upon you. You've had to give up so much. In my head, the only way I can try and compare it is waking up in the morning and having a newborn baby that I didn't even know I was pregnant, and then having to give up everything I'm doing to care for this person. That's the only way I can, try and understand it. But is that pretty much what it goes like?
It is, because you're just thrown into this whole new world that you don't understand, and there's no roadmap. And people, well-meaning people, professionals, they give you, look at this website, read this pamphlet, follow that, do this, do that. But there's nobody there with a holistic view of what's going on. So you have even your GP, you never get to see the same GP twice. You're just pushed from pillar to post, and if you need any help, call this number, or if you need help, here's a support line. But that's not the help you need. You need somebody with a view of the whole thing, what's going on for you and for your partner, because it's a two-person diagnosis, I think, anything like this.
100%. Yeah. And you didn't get offered any sort of support yourself, any counselling, any training to help you?
It's
manage?
like overnight you become this whole care package yourself, without any training, without any courses. So you go online and you learn as much as you can online, but it's not really sufficient, and you're just not trained, you're not paid, you're just not up for it.
I mean, Jane, you were as a teacher, so you knew you could access things online, and I look at some people and depending on age, etc., a lot of them don't even know how to switch on a computer. They don't know how to access and do online courses. They don't have a mobile phone. You were luckily quite savvy that you taught yourself. But a lot of people, and I mean, you haven't had an easy ride either. You've had a terrible journey. But some people as well won't even have the luxury of being able to access anything at all, and that is so frightening.
It is, especially with an aging population.
Is really, really frightening.
All as baby boomers are coming to the age where we're getting sicker and sicker and less able to do anything for ourselves. And it's a huge number of people that are going to need help. in the next 10, 20 years, isn't it? And the care system just is not up to it.
No. And I mean, when you asked for help, Jane, what aside from like go to this website, go to this, was you ever offered any sort of respite, any carers to come into your house? What was that? What did that look
Well,
like?
when Frank came home from the first care home, we had a social worker involved. She was fabulous, but my daughter felt I was kind of bullied into having Frank home. So he came home to stay for a visit, and she said, "Oh, it's too soon for us to organise for any carers to come in. You know, we could get somebody in to do his breakfast or to do his lunch." I said, "I can do that. My daughter will come and support me." So my daughter came down, but the social worker took it that I'd said no to any kind of support from them, which wasn't really what I meant. And then she sort of dropped out of our case and didn't want anything more to do with
And
us.
that was it. The whole thing was over.
Yeah, you're on your own.
She didn't come and visit you again.
No, no, but you know, if you've got any problems, see your doctor, see your GP. So we went to see the GP. The GP got the local mental health people involved, and they were fabulous, but they were very difficult to get hold of. And when you needed them, you needed them. So as it progressed, Frank came home in November from this care home, and he stayed home until November this year. This November, he's gone back into care. And I think that's one of the things that they don't normalise. You know, because you love somebody, you do more and more and more. And because you love somebody, more is expected of you. But that love needs professional support. And in my opinion, we need to sort of tie up the dementia care. There are fabulous charities doing brilliant work with Alzheimer's carers and Alzheimer's sufferers. And in Worthing, there's a fabulous Guild Care. They do wonderful work. But the price of loving somebody and having this horrible diagnosis means you think you're not allowed to ask for support. You're not allowed to put your head above the parapet and say, this is going on for us. And everybody is quietly managing in their own little home, in their own little prison. And I think if we all got together and spoke out about it, maybe something might change. I don't even know what I want to change, but I think.
And I mean, that's so powerful, Jane, what you're saying, your own little prison. And I feel that, and I see it. You know, I offer community services, and I see unpaid carers. We go in, we do a little bit of help, but they're there 24/7. They can't shut off. Their life revolves around that. You know, their husband, their child. You know, it could be any family member whatsoever, and it's a life sentence, isn't it? And you know, you then feel guilty that you need help, because then they'll think that you're not coping, and then you're going in this loop like I'm not good enough, and then that's a lot of mental stress on you, your relationship. And I think what happened then, Jane, for him to end up going back into the care home this November? Was it a crisis again?
Yeah, so since August, he'd been going downhill. He'd been getting more aggressive. Evening sundowning was getting quite nasty, and I was really struggling at this stage. So I kept ringing the mental health nurse, and I know he'd got a lot on, but I didn't quite get to speak to him very often. So that kind of fell by the wayside, and then Frank had a fall early October, and I had to get the ambulance out to help me to get him up. And they wanted him to go in overnight to be just assessed, see how he was getting on. So they took him. I stayed with him till 1 a.m. while he was in hospital. Came home 7 a.m. The nurse rang and said, "Oh, he's ready to be picked up." And I thought, no, I don't want to pick him up. And it's a horrible way to think about your husband, someone you're supposed to be caring for.
Jane, and I honestly, just take a minute. I get it, and I was going to say, how did that make you feel when you knew someone else was going to just take care of him for a minute and give you that little bit of break?
Oh God, the relief.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
So
and that makes you feel awful for feeling that little bit of
yes,
relief,
yeah, for wanting it elsewhere.
but it's not an awful thing.
So I went in to pick him up, and when I got there, he was cross with me and he gave me the face. So he was in the bay, sitting on the bed, and I burst into tears. And the nurse said, "Oh, don't worry, darling. He's okay. He's okay to come home." And I said, "He might be, but I'm not." And fortunately, the doctor who dealt with him heard me saying this and saw me crying, and she said, "Well, I've been dealing with him overnight, and I know it's a handful, and it's more than one person should have to deal with." And
Oh,
so she said, "We'll
amazing.
send him up to be assessed
She's
and
seen
then
you.
think about a long-term placement," which was such a relief.
It took that one person, Jane, to really see you, and that is all it needs. And every person in the sector needs to be that one person, because there isn't just one Jane out there. There is
Yeah.
millions of you, 5.6 million of you, right, that we know
Yes.
of. And you won't ask for help because you feel like a failure. You should be given it. It should be written in diagnosis that their sibling, the wife, the husband, the children, we all get this wraparound full support package. We get checked in on regularly just because it's quiet. I know the old saying, no news is good news, but no, not when it comes to health.
Yes. So you're coping
Mm,
quietly, and the evenings are the
yeah.
worst. From sort of 4 o'clock when often sundowning hits. And then the whole long night of him waking up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., flooding the bathroom, having toilet accidents, coming in and shouting at me to wake me up, because I didn't always wake up when he was awake. And then the guilt you feel because you want to, just that anger, and then you feel
Mm,
guilty for being angry about something that they can't help, because dementia takes
no.
their rational thoughts away. Uh, and, and so you're just so alone. And we don't normalize asking for help or going into care. Caring for a spouse or for a mum, your dad, is seen as such, lovely, the ultimate sacrifice, the ultimate declaration of love. And people used to say to me, "Oh, you're so brave, you're so strong. Oh, I couldn't do, oh, you're so strong." And I think, well, praise like that keeps you even more stuck, because you can't say,
Mm,
"No, I'm not strong. I'm failing." And you just
yeah.
have to step up even more. And that, and
But you're not failing. You're just losing
mm,
yourself. And if you had the right support, if you had the right infrastructure, if you had a little bit of respite, this would have made this whole journey so much easier. And I know you said he's in a home now, so he's come out of the hospital. The nurses have said, yeah, we can help you, give him a little bit of support, and he's gone into the care home. So did you get to choose that care home? Was you involved in that process?
no, because his needs were particular, he was angry again, and his toileting was a bit of a problem. There was only one
Mm.
home that would take him, so we went with that. Um, you don't get much choice.
Because you just wanted the break, really, Jane, and that's okay. And he's still there now, is
He
he?
is, yes. So that's since mid-November. But even that, you'd think it was time to breathe again. I can get a bit of a life back on track. But the guilt, the self-recrimination, the the beating yourself up constantly. Plus, you've spent so long caring for somebody else, you've got no space in your head for you. You don't know what you want. You don't know what you care about anymore. You don't know how to live a life without them being the center of it. And you lose yourself. And I find now, if I go somewhere, I get so shy. It's been so long since I've really.
You've only had one-way communication, really, haven't you? One person just to communicate to all the time. And this is another thing, Jane, and it's such an important point. You know, when people are giving up that caring role, whether it's because they've moved into a long-term placement, whether it's because they've passed away, the aftercare for those full-time carers is so important. You know, we're in February now. He's been in a home since November. You are still institutionalized. You are still stuck in that routine with no support, no bandwidth. And also, you know, what I'm hearing is probably a little bit of trauma, because you've got one day you've got your husband and you're exploring the world, the next day you will get an MS, and then the next day your whole life is given up. So at the moment you're probably thinking everything's going okay, it's a bit quieter, but I better not start doing something for me just in case something bad happens. There's a lot to unwrap here, and you know, it's awful that even now you've got the support, that damage has already been done, and you're still not getting the support that you need ongoing. And that's really, really worrying, Jane. And I think for me now, one really important question: how is your relationship now with your husband? Now he's not in your space full time. Now you do have a little bit of breathing space, and you know he's being looked after. You said the care home is wonderful. How is your relationship now? What does it look like? I'm thrilled to say this episode was sponsored by the amazing Astronaut. Now, everyone knows I love people that support the care sector, and this is exactly what Astronaut do. If you're like me and you're not very good at IT, they take away all that stress. They manage all your cybersecurity, making sure your data is safe, and we all know, especially in the care sector, this is hugely important. They take all that burden away from us as providers and carers, and they support your staff as well to make sure they are doing things right. This episode has been brought to you because of them, and I'm truly grateful. So if you need help and support, you want it done to a CQC outstanding level, you want the ICO to be happy, then please get in touch with Astronaut. It is astronaut.co.uk, and you will not regret it.
Most days when I go in, it's completely different now, because he is happy to see me. He's grateful. He can't stop kissing my hand, telling me how much he loves me. He's just become this most loving, affectionate man that he'd stopped being for so many years. And he's just, I don't know if it's love, I don't know if it's compassion, I don't know how to name it, but I love him again. And to be able to support him like that is good, but it's also re-traumatizing every time I go in. I have to really gird my loins before I go in and see him, and to give myself a good talking to. You're here for his, but I've started now. I've just limited it to an hour when I go in to see him. But in that hour, I don't look at my phone. I don't do anything except give him my full attention. We listen to music sometimes. Sometimes we talk about memories of the past, because he's still there, in there somewhere. And so
you get to enjoy that moment without having that caring role.
Yeah, I feel like his wife again.
Oh, Jay, honestly, it's so moving. Like, your story is your journey. It's not even a story, it's just such a journey that you've been on, and such a tough one as well. And the fact that you still you're now in a position where you're able to feel something other than anger, whether it's compassion, falling in love again, whether it's just those stolen short moments that you can celebrate each other, talk about the lovely memories. That is amazing. But the sacrifices that come with it is, everyone will talk about those amazing moments like you are, Jane. Everything you're saying to me is what you had to do, what you did, what you did, what you did, what you give. Nowhere have I heard, how was Jane supported? What did we do as a society to support Jane?
That's,
You know, and that
yeah.
that is not acceptable. And I know, Jane, there's a reason why you're here with me today on this podcast, and you have made it your mission to speak up for unpaid carers. And I know you've done some articles. Talk us through what are you going to do with this time now? What are you doing to educate people? Because you are a teacher, so we know you're going to educate. What is your plan? Tell us your plan now.
Well, there are so many people suffering quietly, dealing with it all, propping up the health system, propping up, as unpaid carers, propping up the whole health system. And what I want to do is to speak on their behalf, to get people to listen, people who make decisions, people like yourself who, you've got so much power in this caregiving community. And I thank you for all you do. But even that, the care homes, pitiful wages and the way people are treated is just abhorrent to me. So I want to speak out on behalf of those people who don't speak for themselves, because dementia is often hidden behind closed doors. You're embarrassed, you're frightened, you don't want to embarrass your person that you're caring for. And so many people don't speak out about it. But I think, sod it, I've come this far, and I've related more to people online, on Instagram, on Facebook, than I do in real life these days, because you're a prisoner for so long that you don't get out to interact socially. So it's given me a purpose and it's given me a voice. Thank you for having me on.
What would you say to anybody, Jane? What would you say to people that are experiencing what you have been through? What advice would you give them?
Power of attorney, sort your will, enlist the help of your family if you can. If you don't have family members to help you, enlist the support of a wider community. Carer Support West Sussex have been fabulous, actually. They've been the ones I've rung when I've really needed something. Sort out your finances. Yeah, know exactly what you've got coming in, what's going out. Try and make a plan for the future. Get some respite. Now, respite can cost 15 to 100 to 2,000 pounds a week. Not many of us could afford that. And Carer Support West Sussex gave me some money to spend on carers, so I could be with my daughters who live, a couple of hours away. But the trouble with that,
you're entitled to it, Jane. That's it. It's because you're entitled to it. And that's the key thing, isn't it, for unpaid carers? They don't fully understand what they are entitled to and are too fearful sometimes to challenge the system.
Yes.
To make sure they get that well-earned carer's break.
Yeah, that would have made all the difference. He'd still be home now if I could have had a night off every so often. Frank's son.
And this is it. Preventative care, preventative support.
Yes. Yeah, his son comes over occasionally from Ireland, but he's got 3 sons and a busy life, so he can't do much. But I'm so grateful just to get a night off every so often. It makes all the difference.
And it is. And Jane, I am so grateful for you coming on today and sharing your raw story and just saying it in a way that everybody will understand. You've just got so much emotion, so much knowledge in the journey, the processes, and the way you articulate yourself. People will really understand that. And you're just so freaking brave. You're so brave to come on. And I know we'd had a little chat before, and you would honestly, you inspire me. You inspire me, and I know when other people watch this, they will also be inspired by you, Jane. And my final advice to you is do not give up. I love that you're challenging the system. I love that you're trying to bring unpaid carers together. And I love that you're using what energy you have now got, what you have now, the time that you have been gifted, again, to still help other people. And that is just phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. So I thank you for everything that you do, for your communities, the sacrifices that you've made as a person, a decent human being in this society. And we're so lucky there was millions of you out there doing this work for free. And anything that we can do to spread the word, to make sure that unpaid carers gets the support that they need, we're all in, Jane. Providers Unite, we're all in, and we will support you all the way.
Bless you. Well, thank you for having me on, and you are wonderful doing what you do. Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's episode, Katrina's Speaks. Jane, I told you, it's just the most beautiful, beautiful lady that's been on a tougher journey than she needed to be. She fell in love, she's fallen out of love, and now fortunately she's fallen back in love. But all of those decisions weren't made on how they should be. She didn't get to make those decisions on her own. They were forced upon her. And had she been given the support that she needed, things might have looked differently. Had she been given some preventative support, then actually her husband might not be in a care home now, which costs public money more. He may have still been at home, and they may have still been enjoying time together if Jane had just had that correct support. There are millions of people out there that are currently not being supported in the right way, and that is not okay. As a society, we shouldn't sit comfortably knowing that this is going on behind closed doors. As Jane says, she's in her own little jail, a decent human being that's done nothing but give back to society is explaining her own life as living in a jail, and all she is doing is what's right for other people. We need to let that sink in as a society and not accept that to be the normal standard procedure for us. I will keep bringing you fresh and raw stories, and I really appreciate you joining us today, and I will be back soon. Thank you. Bye.